Oh yeah, here we go, practice acquisition. There are pitfalls throughout the entire process. If you want to buy a practice, this is how, folks.
Acquisition Unscripted, the truth when buying and selling a dental practice. And now your host, Michael Dinsio.
What up, guys? Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Dental Acquisition Unscripted. You guys know me, Mike Dinsio with Next Level Consultants. Guys, I have to apologize. I've been really lazy and I have not published enough episodes. My team and I are working on it. I'm a busy guy, but I really love this stuff. I love talking to you through this microphone and giving you great information. This is not a way for me to make money. This is a way for me to educate you guys all about the process of buying a practice. And I just want to give a little gratitude on you all and listening. I get on phone calls all day like, Mike, we really love the program. And so thank you so much. We have fun with it. Our commitment in the next 12 to 15, 20 months is we're going to have more consistency in the program. And we're excited about all the new episodes coming out. I have another another announcement. So you all know that we have two programs going on. We've got one that's really focused on startup. So it's Startup Unscripted. It's the red brand. It's that logo that you probably know on the startup side. This is the blue brand. This is Acquisition Unscripted. So two different kind of programs that have content specifically to what you're trying to do, startup acquisition. A lot of you don't know what you want to do, so it's good to toggle back and forth. But we're about to solve that problem, and also we're going to add some more content that's outside of startup and acquisition. And so we are going to go through a rebrand and just simply call ourselves Dental Unscripted. So if you actually go on the website, Dental Unscripted, that's our website. And you're just going to see the startup and acquisition side when you go to dentalunscripted.com. But soon we will be mixing in more content that's more about like practice management. So it's going to be all under one house. So if you are following this program, Dental Acquisition Unscripted, you're going to just pay attention and jump on and start and subscribe to what soon to be Dental Unscripted podcast, simply Dental Unscripted. So, okay, without further ado, this episode is a good one. We are going to be talking all things insurance and liability. Yay, super fun concept and topic. But look, this is really important. You're about to get into business. I have insurance. I think I have $2 million or more. I have some on personal. I have some on business. It's really important. There are crazy people out there that want to sue you. There's also disability and just things that you need to really protect yourself. And there's nothing worse than getting into a situation and your business and your livelihood gets shut down. And that's a real thing. So we're going to go through all things insurance. I've got a friend of mine that has been helping a lot of our clients on the program today. His name's Brian Martinka, and he represents and is a partner at Westpac Wealth Partners based out of Arizona. Brian, welcome to the show, buddy. How you doing?
Thank you for having me, Michael.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this is good. This is good. So as always, folks, it's very unscripted, and we have not planned this conversation, but we do have some topics that I think you're going to really want to hang on to. We're going to talk about why insurance in general, like why do we even need it? A minimalistic insurance strategy, because sometimes cash flow is a problem. So Brian's going to break that down. And then like fully covered, like, hey, no one's going to get me. I'm covered. We're going to go through a fully covered strategy. And then we're going to get into some pitfalls. So got some good topics that you're going to want to hang in for. But without further ado, Brian, give us a 30 minute elevator, kind of what you guys are all about at Westpac Wealth Partners, buddy. Take it away.
Yeah. So again, thank you for having me, Michael. So I've been in the business for about a decade now, working specifically with dentists. On the team, I handle all the insurance. We have a couple guys who do the financial planning. But really what we do is we help people make better financial decisions, whether it's financial planning, tax planning, and estate planning.
Okay, awesome. And then on the insurance side, you pretty much help folks that need pretty much any kind of insurance need. That if it's insurance, you're the guy.
Correct.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the program, man. Again, I really appreciate what you do for our clients, and we've wanted to get you on the show for a while. So thanks for making the time. Real quick, is there anything that you could throw out that makes Westpac a little different than the rest out there?
I would say, yeah, it's our planning process. It's very comprehensive. Once clients get dialed in, other than the insurance and financial planning, it's really focusing on the business planning. And a lot of the key areas that we focus on are the tax and estate planning side.
Okay. I think that's great. I can tell you right now, as a business owner, I'm always looking for help with people that are way smarter than me in areas, estate planning and tax being a really important thing. And as dentists get into ownership and start building wealth, it just gets more and more and more complicated. And I personally have experienced that. And you can only know so much, right? You can only read so many articles and listen to so many podcasts to where you can only get so far in some of these categories. And it's really good to have a group of individuals that you trust, and that's awesome. So, buddy, thanks so much for being on the program.
Absolutely.
Let's get into some meat and potatoes, which is the Mike Dinsio unscripted style. So let's just throw a softball at you this real quick. Why do you even need a business insurance? It's kind of a stupid question. Let's peel back some onion layers on this. So why do you need business insurance?
Well, one, the banks are going to require it for the business. If you are doing a startup or have a business in general, it's also important to protect your business. If something goes wrong, as you mentioned, you want to make sure that all areas are covered. You have people trying to sue you. You can become sick or something goes wrong. You just want to be overall protected.
Yeah. Give us some scenarios, man. Give me a story. Give me a story where you got a call and someone was totally screwed because they weren't insured. And look, this isn't to scare you, the audience, but guys, actually, Brian, don't give us a 1% situation. Give me the most common, oh shit, they didn't cover themselves and we had this conversation and they didn't choose that insurance. What's the most common one? Go for that.
The most common that we see with dentists early on is actually disability insurance claims. And those happen a lot.
Okay.
So I've had clients who have neuropathy, who have had MS. I had a client, a few years back who had a benign brain tumor, and that caused a number of complications. And that's definitely going to affect revenue, business, and that's when you probably are getting ready to sell your business.
Yeah. So disability, dentists get disabled all the time. Is that true story?
Yeah, it's anybody under the age of 35, it's a 1 in 4. Over the age of 35, it's a 1 in 3.
Whoa. We actually have someone on the Next Level team that's a dentist, and his hand is not up to par. He can't do extractions. And so here he is. He's now a consultant with Next Level, and that's a very common story. But also just living, snowboarding, skiing, it's that kind of stuff too, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I recently had a doctor client the other day get into an accident and reach out to me, and he's going to be out for a while. And we don't do auto insurance, but the first thing I asked them, one, was it your fault? And then number two, what are your limits, that you have? Because a lot of the, at least out here in Arizona, the state minimums for auto insurance is $25,000. And so, and he's driving a $150,000 car. He's a doctor. So you hit somebody at a pretty reasonable speed. You go over that limit. Now they're going after assets and income and everything else.
Is that what happens, Brian? Let's dig into it a little bit. Like what's the kind of when something does happen, because things happen,
Yeah.
malpractice, whatever, it's gonna happen. You guys,
Yep.
dentists on the horn here. I mean, you're seeing hundreds of patients a year, in some cases, half a year in big practices, right? So sometimes monthly, right? Um, something's going to happen. So what's the process when something does happen, like a patient, we're kind of pivoting away from the most common disability, but like when something does happen like that, what's the like, how do
So on the
how do the
malpractice,
attorneys handle that? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's a different side of the insurance. I mean, you know, if they have a complaint or some procedure goes wrong, yeah, there's definitely due diligence part that goes into that. They're looking into, and usually it doesn't go over the limits, which is nice. I mean, they pretty have high coverage as it is, starting out, and then again, it's required for many different reasons. But when you start getting into some specialty groups, you know, like guys who are doing implants and stuff, that's where we kind of see a lot of things go wrong.
But the process, so the attorneys start with they sue the entity, they sue, like, walk me through the process of someone trying to get you, because the question is, why do you need insurance, and how do you
Yep.
layer those insurances? So kind of walk us through like the process in which someone is trying to sue you, and why, and where the insurance kicks in and all that.
So I knock on wood, I haven't had any of those claims come
Okay.
through,
Okay.
right? And we insure 600 dentists, or I do at least, and on my team.
Wow.
Um,
So no one slipped on the ice and went after a dentist and on your
not as
600
of yet.
doctors?
It's just a matter of time, right? It's a
Wow.
numbers game. But I've had people in my firm who also work with dentists that are team members of mine, and I can tell, yeah, the attorneys are coming after everything. There's a claim that's filed. You know, so it's a little scary, but majority of the time, I mean, the dentists are usually covered for the
Okay.
most part.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So that's the scary part, the disability part. What about content, and why would you need to insure your stuff? I'm sure that happens quite often. Floods
Yeah,
and
we
fire.
actually just had a claim with a practice owner where the equipment wasn't working, and the insurance is going to cover it, and it was under warranty, thank gosh. Or excuse me, the insurance didn't have to cover it; it was under warranty.
Mm-hmm.
So where equipment does go bad, but if it, you know, in the sense of, I guess, a fire or whatever, I mean, your equipment is covered. So
Yeah. Floods. I mean,
floods,
I've heard of floods lots of times. Yeah.
mhm,
Pipes break above you and it
pipes, yep.
blows. So, on those policies, Brian, do you try to get full replacement new? Like, how's that work?
Yeah, we do, and we actually have another team that facilitates that, or that insurance, and we're jumping on the calls. We're making sure that the equipment that they have, you know, they're obviously, we want to know what it's worth, and yeah, getting it fully insured for that purpose.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Well, let's pivot, man. I really want to understand. Sometimes I get my clients, that have a really low cash flow situation where we're buying a practice and it's just not throwing off enough cash, and or the banks, some banks require less than others.
Yep.
So for sure, some banks want the Cadillac, all systems go, and then other banks just want life, or whatever. So I guess I'm sitting back and I'm wondering, like, how do I advise my clients in the minimal that they need, but forget what the banks require and not require. That's not what I'm asking. A lot of people go down the path of, oh, well, the bank's only making me get life, so that's all I'm going to do. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, just because they're only requiring what they need to cover their ass, you need to get some stuff that covers your ass, right? And so that's
Correct.
that's the conversation I want to have, is like, what is the minimal that you would feel comfortable letting someone leave your quote unquote doors and get coverage? And then we're going to cover like what else should you add to that to make sure you're fully covered. So first things first, minimalistic insurance strategy. How would you answer that?
Yeah, I mean, just from a minimal standpoint, and cash flow is tight. At least on the BOE side, you want to at least cover the loan for at least 12 months. Overhead,
Would you
that can
say
be
BOE? What's
business
BOE?
overhead expense. Yep.
Okay. So what's that mean?
So yeah, I mean there's different types of BOE policies. One's going to cover the loan. The other can cover rent. It can cover staff. Keep the lights on, as you know, if you do have a disability. That way, when you're trying to maybe exit at that point in time, depending on the type of disability, we can cover everybody while you're out. So that way there's a lot of income.
So business overhead. Business overhead, I hear that quite often. So like it covers what the name suggests, your overhead. So how do you guys go about underwriting business overhead insurance? Do you look at the profit and loss? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, so there's a number of different things. For the loan side, I have to have the banks send me what the loan payment's going to be, the duration of that loan payment, and then if the clients want to cover the practice, we need to know the rent, we need to know the salary. So they have to send in all that documentation to us for us to insure it.
Okay, so you're buying a practice, it's doing, I don't know, 600,000 in collections. The overhead, let's just say that it's the overhead of the practice is somewhere around, I don't know, 60%. So, which would be low, by the way. But let's say it's 360 a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your coverage on business overhead insurance on the overhead only would be $360,000 for all 12 months, plus the bank loan. So let's just call the bank loan another, I don't know,
4 or 5 grand.
Yeah. So yeah, 80,000 a year, but so that's for the annual. So 440 a year, but so you divide that by 12. So essentially you'd be covering 36,000 a month. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
So, and that's assuming that something happens that disrupts the business. What are some of those examples?
And that's a disability policy again. So
my hand gets hurt, but what about tornado comes through? What about
that's different. So this is strictly for disability, the business overhead expense.
Okay. So I guess that kind of bleeds into what are the other insurances other than business overhead?
Then there's the life insurance, and that again, one will cover your loan, and then I always recommend that people have additional coverage for themselves to cover their butt and their families and etc. So, which not all people do, which is amazing.
Can you explain that? Like, I feel like clients don't quite connect there. So the bank requires life. Why do they require life? And what did you mean by what you just said? Because I know what you mean.
Yeah. So whenever you're purchasing a practice, let's call it $1 million practice, right? The loan's $1 million, and the banks want to have coverage up to that amount. So in the event you pass away, the banks are covered, so they can pay off the loan. And they usually collateralize those policies. So it's assigned to the bank essentially. But I always recommend that clients get more coverage if they don't have any, outside of the business.
So personal life insurance.
Personal life insurance. Yep. And when we look at personal, we're looking for income replacement, and that's the important discussion to have with clients. There's many different theories of how much you should have, and but I'm always looking at income replacement for everybody on the life insurance side.
All right. So doctor buys a business, something crazy happens, they pass away. The family then inherits a quite a stressful situation. Call next level if that happens. We can walk you through that. But essentially you got to sell the business. Your spouse or partner or family has to sell the business. And if you sell the business, which by the way, just helped someone here in Washington, they passed away. One of our past clients passed away, and my client was their family, because everything rolled up to their family. And so it became a very interesting situation where um, I was helping the family sell this asset for as much as possible, but it's a fire sale. The dentist is gone. They've passed away. Every single day, the schedule's collapsed and closed, and we're telling patients that something horrible has happened, right? And and so the equity in the practice has gone down. So what we're talking about here is the bank is covered. They don't care if your family's gonna sell this business for a shortfall of maybe 500 grand of what it was worth when you passed away, right? And so so whatever it does sell at, there's usually a shortfall. The loan's covered in that life policy. But what Brian's talking about is, what about your family? What about that asset that the family's losing, right? So anything to add to that, Brian? I'm sure you've dealt with this.
Yeah. And I always recommend, like I said, I mean, when we're looking at life insurance, it's not usually just, hey, how do we pay off debt, right? Whether it's the mortgage and anything else outstanding, it's how do we replace income for the family members? Because what we find typically is a lot of the time that their spouse won't work. Or if they do, it's very minimal because they're taking care of family members and et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So one way we like to view life insurance is, and going back to the income pre-placement, if you were to put $1 million into an account and use safe withdrawal rate, let's call it 4%, every $1 million is $40,000 of income. So when we're looking at insurance, how much income would your family need, to be able to survive and continue to, move on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, I think these types of conversations need to be discussed because terrible things happen every single day.
Yep.
Okay, so life, business overhead, minimalistic. Anything else that you would add to those two?
I mean, you're going to have your malpractice insurance, and that's going to have coverage up to 3 million. That's pretty minimal. And then the general liability, which is pretty.
So why general liability? Tell me more about that.
And again, the general liability is, floods, fires, tornadoes, things that go wrong, and that will be covered for your practice.
And is that general liability on the business or personal?
Well, it's going to be on the business side. Yeah. So, I mean, and that can stem off into different things like workers' comp and many other things as well.
So when landlords are asking for insurance policies, it's usually the general liability one they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Okay. And then what's the appropriate amount for a small business? That
usually we see about $1 million.
$1 million. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And general liability, does that cover like people falling on ice? Someone
So that would be the workers' comp insurance. Yeah. So someone hurts himself.
Workers' comp's employees. I'm talking about a patient just decides to sue you.
Yeah, the general yes. To answer your question, yes. So.
Yes. So okay. So now to rewind again, we've got life, we've got business overhead. In case of a disability, it covers all your overhead, including your salary to yourself. Oh, it just popped in my head. Doctors sometimes don't take salaries. They just take owner draws instead of running themselves through salary. Does business overhead insurance cover the draws, or do you have to have yourself in as salary?
So that would be a personal disability that they would have. Okay.
So the draws or whatever's left, even if they don't pay themselves through payroll, that would be covered?
On an individual basis.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay. Sorry. Had to ask that question.
No, you're good.
So life, business overhead insurance, malpractice, a general umbrella. What did you call that?
They call them BOP policies, but yeah, general liability,
General liability, and then workers' comp.
workers' comp. Yep.
Those are the 5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, minimalistic. So at bare minimum, we need to walk away with those 5 things.
Correct.
Can you add anything else to it? Like don't not get X or whatever.
I mean, that really covers your whole basis.
Okay, then let's pivot. What are some things that you would layer into that to make sure that we are fully covered, or things that are extras or a good idea? What other types of policies are you thinking of there?
I mean, this will pivot back to the. I mean, you can always get excessive coverage, but this will even go back tie into your personal, right? And this is outside an umbrella policy
to cover your personal umbrella. So if
Mhm.
someone does decide to sue you, you're protecting your personal assets.
Correct. I mean, look at every city where you fly to, and on all the billboards. I mean, you got accident attorneys and attorneys advertising all the time, and whenever they find out that, oh, look, this doctor hit somebody, or is liable for something, I mean, it's never a fun experience. So they're usually having them subpoena all their assets and what they have, income, all that. It actually happened to my dad, who's a business owner himself.
Mm.
So
so someone went after the whole thing.
So they tried, yeah. So my dad had hip surgery and was leaving Mayo Clinic. His leg went numb on the freeway, and he hit somebody because he has a large SUV at 55 miles per hour.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then they hired an attorney and tried to go after everything. But the first thing they look at is the insurance. How much coverage you have, and he has an umbrella policy. But they usually try not to go over, because then when you try to go over, there's a lot of different moving pieces. It takes a longer time for the attorneys to settle. So usually they try to settle with the insurance amount.
Which begs the question, the more insurance I have, the more they're going to sue me for. Comments? No? Yes? I'm just asking. Like,
yeah. I mean, yeah, they try to go for higher amounts.
If I pay for $4 million of coverage and something happens, they're going to sue me for $4 million. If I have $1 million of coverage, they're going to sue me for $1 million.
Yeah.
Should I get more insurance?
I'd always think it's a good idea. Just because if anything is over, then they're going to try to go after personal assets.
Yeah. Do you have those conversations with folks? Like, do I really need this much? What are the, like, when people
all
call
the time, right? Yeah. And it comes down to one thing: is cost, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you willing to pay for? And then some people just think, oh, that's never going to happen to me, and something ends up happening. Yeah.
Okay, so another umbrella personally. So we've kind of bounced around a little bit. So there's business insurance and there's personal insurance. Brian, have we focused mainly on personal, or what are considered personal business? The ones we just talked about.
Yeah. So, I mean, for personally, again, as a dentist, you're going to be required to have malpractice no matter what. That's going to be required of you to practice as a dentist.
Personal malpractice.
Personal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even on the business side, they require that. Life insurance is not always needed. Sometimes
and that's personal. Yeah.
Yep. And even on the business side, the banks don't always require it. So they're like, hey, we'll approve the loan without the life insurance. Cool. All right. Mm-hmm. Don't recommend it, but it's
guys, actually, while we're on that point, something happens to you, die, your spouse now has to make sure that they cover that bank loan. And I just told you, I dealt with this, a fire sale. The value of the practice was depleting every single month. We didn't have our hygiene patients coming in. So this is going to be your spouse's problem. And if you just buy the business today, $1 million, let's say, God, it's a horrible thing to think about, but you get hit by somebody that loses feeling in their right leg, like Brian's dad. It's this unfortunate situation. You're gone. Now your spouse has to figure out how to get that $1 million liability off of his or her shoulders. So just because the bank is not requiring it, again, it's a perfect example, folks, you got to cover yourself. So, okay. So malpractice on the personal side, life is on the personal side. Is business overhead on the business side or personal side?
That's on the business side,
Business side. Okay.
but sometimes in the event, like, because we work with a lot of people who are finishing school, we try to get them disability, even though
Hmm.
it's not always required. But
Okay.
you
Disability on
know,
the personal.
on the personal, but sometimes we have to use those policies on the business side because let's say later on down the road that person develops a health issue, even though they're not on disability claim, and then the banks are like, hey, we need a BOE policy, business overhead expense. Sometimes they don't qualify for it, and
And so
so
then
then
you
we
just,
use their personal, or
but
we try to go to. There is a carrier that will insure them, but they're going to be paying like 5 times the amount.
But guys, I have to I have to stop and make these breaks and spell this out because again, the whole reason why we work is to cover ourselves at home, whether that's paying our bills for our family or investing or whatever. It's about taking care of us. So you've got a couple things going on here. You've got like leveraging the risk of someone coming at you and bankrupting your business. And then you got another thing where we could lose our income if this business doesn't thrive. And by the way, if you're disabled, and you're an associate, whether you own a business or you're associate, you're shut down. So, so I guess the point is like, you always have to think just because the bank might not require it or whatever, or if the bank is using a policy to fulfill their conditions, like Brian just said, let's say you couldn't qualify for business overhead insurance, right? But you had a personal disability insurance. The bank can use that. So if you get disabled, the bank's like, hey, I'm still getting paid. I'm taking your disability payment. You guys can figure out your situation. We're covered, right, Brian? So that's a
Yep.
problem. So so anytime that you have to like steal insurance from your personal side to cover your business, it could be a potential problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So back to our little thing here. So disability, I'm sorry, business overhead, life, well, life's personal.
Could be both. Yep.
It can be. So you can get a life policy for under your business entity.
Well, I mean, for the loan, yes. So,
Okay. I'm
or
just
you can
trying.
cover let's say you have key employees, or a lot of people are starting to partner with other dentists, and let's say that dentist pass away or becomes disabled. So there's disability buyouts. There's key man, because what value to that other partner bring to your practice? In fact, one of the faculty members here in Arizona who teaches over at Midwestern is a disabled dentist who had 3 other partners. They didn't get disability buyout on each other, and they had to go get a loan from the bank and buy out his share.
Yeah, I can speak to that. My partner at Next Level, her and I have a key man insurance policy. Her and I are the yin and yang of Next Level. If something happens to me, she needs to be covered. If something happens to her, I'm screwed. Needs to be covered. So key man insurance, super important, especially in partnerships. I'm glad you brought that up, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the last kind of like segment that I want to hit here is pitfalls of getting insurance. So, walk me through kind of like, what are the challenges in your world? Is it underwriting? Is it how long things take for closing? Like what are some of your pitfalls?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. Underwriting is definitely a big part of it. And so when people are ready to buy a practice, or they say, you know what, I want to buy a practice, I would just recommend applying for all this stuff right away, even if you don't have a practice lined up, just because the underwriting process does take time. And usually that's collecting medical records from different physicians that they've seen. And those practices don't send the medical records on time for the insurance company to review. So we have to constantly bug them to get those medical records and for have the underwriters review it. So if you're in the process, or you want to buy a business at some point, I would say in the next 3 to 6 months, just apply for it. Because once you're approved, then it just makes it easier for when you do find the practice, and we can get things rolling from there. So
I've heard that certain insurances take a lot longer. Which ones are the ones that take
those are
longer?
the disabilities probably going to always take the longest, the BOE. the business
Business
overhead
overhead.
expense. Life insurance is typically quicker, but again, it also depends on someone's medical records and health issues and everything that they have. And the other thing is I always try to ask questions up front. So when I'm working with somebody, do you have any health issues? Are you taking any certain medications?
Yeah.
Do those types of questions? And sometimes they're not always honest, and things pop up in their medical records and they're like, oh, I totally forgot to mention that to you. I'm like, well, that's kind of a big deal,
Yeah, yeah, that could delay things. So what I've ran into this though, Brian. What's the solve here? If someone comes to you too early, which is always better to come early so that you
Earlier is
don't
better.
slow, but they also don't want to pay $300 a month before they even own. So what's the solve there?
We don't even have to bind it at that point in time. We just wait and sit on the approval.
Okay.
So
expirations and stuff, don't worry about
yeah,
it.
they're usually good for 6 months.
Oh.
And so that's why I say, 3 to 6 months. Like I just applied for a BOE policy on somebody who is in the process of looking at different practices.
Yeah.
I just applied with the highest amount, not saying we're taking the highest amount.
Okay.
That way, if it does come higher, hey, we're covered. If it comes lower, then we just reduce it as is. And then
Awesome. So there's a solution there. Then worst case scenario, if you had to re-up, is it faster if you had to like reapply or no? Same problem.
If we had to re-up, that's why I always apply for the highest. Because then if we do have to re-up, then they're looking at certain underwriting requirements. So
yeah. So it expires in 6 months, and to like reapply, would that be faster or slower? That'd be faster probably because you got all the information.
Faster. Yeah, they would have everything, and they would just ask, "Hey, has anything changed with your health in the past couple months, or whatever it may be? Have you seen any doctors?" And if the answer is no, then hey, we're good to go. If the answer is yes, then
there's no downsides. No downsides of getting it going sooner.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Not at all. And then sometimes the banks, on the other hand, this is where I do
those
run
damn bankers. Those damn bankers.
I know. It's usually, hey, I need this insurance within 3 weeks. It's like,
well, they're trying to close on the deal, and so they're getting all kinds of pressure from the brokers and the buyers and the sellers and all the people, the attorneys, and then it always comes down to like, oh, we finally got the lease, let's close next week, and you're like, dude, they just applied last week, so I think that's the big thing, and I appreciate that pitfall because that is, I always say like there's like 3 to 5 things that have to get done immediately once we are in contract. So the sooner the better. You're saying on average it takes 3 months. I mean, if you had 3 months, that's good.
Oh, I mean, I would say it takes about everybody's different.
On average. Yeah.
Probably about a month. Yeah.
A month. Okay. So worst case, a month, best case, 3 months. You want to get people in sooner than later. I like it. Okay. Dude, this has been great. I think there's always like this question at Mike, what's the best insurance? You guys, do you work with preferred insurance companies? Or do you work with a lot of them? One of them? What's the strategy?
Yeah, we have a lot of different groups that we work with, and that depends on timing. So some companies, because we know their underwriting process is going to take longer, we try to find the ones that, hey, we need to get this done now. And they're not always the cheapest, but I tell the client up front, hey, if we need to do the close on this time, because a lot of clients want to look at quotes, and I totally understand that, right? What's this going to cost? And then it comes down to
then
time.
You're like, dude, you came to me 2 weeks before the close.
Yeah.
All right. So to that point, the sooner you get it going, the better the rates you could get. And it opens it up for Brian to be able to approach more people. So what I heard is he can shop multiple different companies and depending on your situation, get you the best deal. But if you show up at a month or less before close, it reduces his ability to work for you. So that's a key. That's a big takeaway right there. So any last
denied.
Go ahead.
If you get denied, we do have a backup insurance company that will take on everybody.
Awesome.
Which is always great.
That's really great. Okay, cool. Any last minute tips as we kind of come into the final leg of this episode?
Yeah, I would say for those of you that are listening to this, that if you are in the process or wanting to look at a business anytime soon, just start the insurances right away. The key ones are the BOE. Again, it might not always be required, and the life insurance, but it's not always required. Just apply. In that way, it's like, and you don't have to pay for it until you're ready to, sign the dotted line and move forward with the loan and everything else. So I would just get that knocked out right away.
That's
the
great.
General liability, the malpractice, if could take some time depending if there's any claims, but the general liability is very quick typically.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome, buddy. Thank you so much for being on the program and kind of debunking this insurance conversation. I just want to remind everybody, guys, look, everybody tells me how much they love the program. Will you please right now review us, whether it's on Spotify or iTunes or whatever your choice is? Guys, please help me out. Write a review. I don't make any money on this stuff. It's all for you guys. So the one way you can give back to this guy is by just simply writing a review for the program. Follow us. Again, huge announcement in the next month or two. We will be consolidating both brands. It will no longer be Dental Acquisition Unscripted. It'll be Dental Unscripted. And we are going to actually bring in more next level coaches into the program. So it's not just all Mike Dinsio. Thank goodness. You guys are sick of hearing me and all my tips. Let's bring in Paula, Stefani, Olivia, all the people on the next level team to give you guys practice management tips, because I've helped a lot of you guys get into ownership. Now it's like, oh my God, I own. What now? And that's what my next level partners do and help clients every single day of the week. And I think you guys need those tips as well. So again, announcement, Dental Unscripted will be where you need to go if you follow this program. And don't get me wrong, we're still going to have startup tips and acquisition tips, our programs, episodes every other week, give or take. But we are going to sprinkle in practice management as well. So be looking for that. Search it right now and subscribe to Dental Unscripted. And without further ado, let's shut this bad boy down. Another episode in the vault. And again, thank you so much, Brian, for being on the program, brother.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
Tune in next time for another truth-filled episode of Acquisition Unscripted. We want to hear from you. Interact with your host, Michael Dinsio. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Comment and subscribe.